Good morning, everybody. Hope you all are having a great Wednesday, May 30th. Um, don't know if there's going to be a whole ton to have a look at here today. There's some news coming out right about now on the US dollar and the prelim GDP numbers, and then there's some Canadian dollar medium news impact events that are happening right now. But in about an hour and a half, there's two major Canadian dollar Bank of Canada rate statement and an overnight rate. I'll just name it here. Just bring this over for you guys to have a look at. So you can see here a little bit of movement in the euro for the early London open session, and then some ADP non-farm news that happened about 15 minutes ago, which really didn't do a whole lot, and I'll show you that here in a minute. And then again, the Canadian dollar stuff that I was talking about that just launched here about 2 minutes ago, and then we've got the rest of the Canadian dollar news here landing in about an hour and a half. So let's jump over to the charts, have a look here, and then Thursday we've got a bunch of euro and news, a little more Canadian dollar news, and a ton of US dollar news. So I'm not necessarily thinking Thursday is going to be an ideal day. There's a bunch of FOMC speakers, and then obviously we've got non-farm, the big news event there on Friday. So we all know what not to do on that day, obviously. But we may have something set up here today. So let's just have a look at the charts here and see where we're at. Okay, nice rejection so far on the US dollar. I'm not necessarily overly convinced that it's going to fail to take this 95 high here. And I think I had mentioned it in an earlier session last week. I was asked what I think is going to happen for next week, and I said, well, they're probably going to push the dollar up, just start to creep below this number here, going into middle of the week, kind of Thursday sort of time frame, and then non-farm, they'll probably pop it up and sweep the highs here, and then we'll see if they want to finally reject and go lower from there. But definitely a big down day today, and I'm not necessarily convinced that this is the high yet. I want to obviously, we'll make that distinction going into next week after non-farm event happens. If this is the high and then non-farm comes in, confirms it, and it starts to drive price lower down here, then we'll obviously look at that then. But I think this is just kind of the false highs so far. They're going to come down. They may not get any lower than this. They came down and just touched off of this Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. This was last Friday's candle high right there at 94.17, and which also happens to be this old high back here as well too. A little bit of an area confluence back there. So for whatever reason, prices returned to that level several times over the past long while, I should say. This was quite a while ago. And so far it's rejecting from that level. So like I say, I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to be the high here. I think they're going to bring this up here, and I don't think they're going to do a failure swing at that level quite yet. But like I say, we'll know non-farm. See how the wicks of the candles came in and just took out the bodies over here as well. That's kind of interesting. But like I say, we'll see. If there's no willingness to continue lower than this level right here for the rest of today and into tomorrow, then I'm going to assume that non-farm will drive up to 95 level, scoop up the liquidity. And then from there, we'll see how much it wants to run. I've got some levels here already marked out. Now, it's more so what I'd be looking for would be a return down to the bottoms of this consolidation area here. And that's about 95.20. So really a sweep of these old highs by 5 to 15 pips is sort of what I'm anticipating. and then we'll see if rejection happens from there. I'm not going to sit here and suggest that that's going to be the ultimate high, and then that price is now going to start to fall down. I'd love it if it started to retrace and came back down and started to sweep down some of these lows that there's all this liquidity sitting under, and then come back down into here. And I think several of you, if you're watching my live sessions, you've probably already done this and seen me do this already here as well too. Let's say we do get a high that runs back up to here. There's a big area of confluence back down here for a return back down and a retest down to this old consolidation levels down here. So I'll be watching for that if this is the high in here that it puts in for non-farm, and we'll see if price is willing to go back down here. And then from there we'll have to reassess, obviously. So that's not going to happen tomorrow, obviously. That'll be, this will probably take a few months to happen. As you can see here, this drive up was a month and a half-ish. So big bull run back up. So we'll see the type of strength that they want to use to come back down and scoop up some liquidity. So with that being said, big reversal day today. Nice to finally see that they're coming back down, rejecting a little bit and grabbing some of the stops. If you go back down to an hourly though, you can see price just has rebounded perfectly right off of these old highs right here. They swept the low here by a couple of pips, and so far they've rejected nicely. So again, that, like I say, could be a prelude to what's to come. They could this could be the low, and then they could jack this thing back up and shoot for these highs here and then here. And so that's what I'm looking for. Now for today, we could certainly look at doing a trade here. We'll jump into euro and the pound dollar here in a second and look at the setup that it's given us there. But so far, like I say, for the US dollar, I'm not convinced that this is the high. And I think if this was going to be the high, I believe they would leave this a little bit differently. I'm not going to go into details on that for today, but I don't think that this pattern right here would be something conducive that they would leave, conducive to a rejection pattern, basically, is what I'm saying. That doesn't look like it, in my opinion. So anyway, let's jump over to the euro quick, have a peek at what's happening there. Same type of idea. Big rejection, and I was calling out these levels for my last live trading session on Tuesday, and you can see price smash down here. What did they run below here? So the low there was 15.55, and they ran the low to 15.09 on this feed. So very, very convincing stop run. They came down, and that's, as you can see, where that this shaded area is down here. They came down and ran that beautifully. Now, in terms of downside, obviously this was a pretty major pivot here that they had come down and swept below. So, you know what, let me just get rid of some of the stuff on this chart here. I don't think any of it is relevant to what I'm looking for. Actually, one level right here, you can see, whoops, sorry, this 116.45 level, you can see prices just came up and just tagged into. I actually had this dog tagged again my last live session, which was London Open on Tuesday. I wanted to see if price wanted to get back into that area there and potentially look for a short. And you can see here prices come up and rejected so far and hits, what was the high? 116.47. So about 2 pips into that, and so far it's rejecting. So that's sort of what I was looking for. I was just kind of calling a move back down. Again, anticipating the prelim of the non-farm numbers coming out. I was expecting them to come down, sweep the stops, and then come back, look for rejection, and then potentially getting into a short into this this area here, in anticipating that the US dollar was going to make that final push higher. And so you can see now it hit that level there, and so I'm not going to jump into a short right now. I want to look at the markets here for a few more minutes and do some analysis on it. This is the first time looking at them here on Wednesday so far today, and so I want to see if there's a willingness to roll over and then to sweep these lows down here. Whoops. So what I wanted to look at was more so over in this area where we're at. And see what's left back down here. So let me just let me grab one of these guys here, put it on the low, and change the color so we know what we're looking at here. Gonna do a real dark green theme there for some reason. Okay, nice big thick blue line. Okay. So price ran down when did it hit? Yesterday, and so far has failed. Just swept under the wick of that candle yesterday. Just swept down and just took out the bodies of these two candles in here, and so far has rejected. And I'm looking to see if we do get a push down on the U.S. dollar. A push up on the U.S. dollar. This small consolidation area here, I think, could obviously get traded back down to, but price has actually been trading fairly efficiently in here. There's one small little area, maybe the small consolidation area under here, we might see a return back down to. And then there is, on this feed here, I do have a gap on this feed. I'm not going to trust that, that's going to be something where price is going to return down to. That is a long ways away from current price. So we're currently sitting at, God, you can't even see this black line. Let me get rid of this. So we're 116.30 for price to come all the way back down to here. I mean, that's 500 pips. I don't believe that's going to that's not going to happen with this run on the U.S. dollar that I'm anticipating. So I'm not going to look at anything there. Potentially a small area under here, but again, you know, that's still 600 pips away. So I'm not thinking that's going to be in the cards. I'm kind of thinking that potentially this area in here could get traded down to. And that would just be sort of a nice little push from where we're at now. And potentially the highs to even maybe the middle of this consolidation area could get tagged in at 12. No, that's still, you know what? That's still 400 pips away. That's a very long range for a sweep when we're only about 100 pips away on the U.S. dollar. That's a pretty big range on the euro, so I'm saying maybe even into here somewhere, maybe the price will come down. It's going to be hard to pick a target. Logically speaking, or technically speaking, I think price could come back down and get into this area here if there's a little bit more room on the U.S. dollar. Let's go down to a weekly. See, this is just a huge rejection. You know, the other thing that they may do as well, too, so let's just hypothetically speak here for a second. Let's just say price runs up, rejects that we're anticipating, and gets back up to this 95.20 level, rejects and starts coming back down. What we could also see is this could be the low, and then as the U.S. dollar is punching up back into that high in there, if that's what happens, they may fail to get back down underneath this low here. Now on the weekly though, however, there is a small area that is of interest, and that comes in basically right around these candles in here, which is kind of corresponding to this old high back here. We could see potentially maybe run down to 1450 level on the weekly. On the daily, I'm not seeing that too much here. That's just, again, basically a return back into these levels back down in here. But like I say, if that does happen, if we do get a push up higher in the U.S. dollar and then a rejection, They could even fail to come even back down to this low again here. So just keep that in mind. And that's basically just SMT divergence. And so that's a very, very bullish sign for the Euro USD. And we could see price start to run. And there's so many levels and so many targets back up in here that I'd be picking on the way back up that we could easily grab for simple intraday trades. And I mean, lots of great trades ensuing there. So anyway, that would be kind of what I'd be looking at. But I want to see what happens here. We're a couple minutes into those, about 15 minutes now into those numbers that were just released. And so far we've seen a pretty good reaction here. I'll be looking for that to see if that wants to continue. And I'm going to go down to a 15-minute and see the highs it's putting in here. If we can look at, let's say this is the high, I'm looking for price to start to roll over here fairly soon and then start to break this low and then back down into here. And then we can look at maybe taking a position off and targeting for this area here, maybe even the lows. So we'll see. But again, that would all be contingent on if this doesn't get traded back down to this 94.17 level. If this is the low here, and you know, again, the other thing they could do is they could just sit here and just go like this for the rest of Monday. For the rest of Wednesday and into Thursday, and you know, who knows what happens from there, right? So don't think that they wouldn't do that as well. Hopefully not. You know, hopefully they're going to start pushing the markets. But I'm going to wait to see if this low is going to hold up here. Basically wait for this candle to close on the hourly, which is in about 12 minutes here, and then see what happens. And so if that happens and the US dollar pushes up, we could start to see this fall over and roll over. So far I like this, and basically all it is just they've come in and run the highs in here nicely, and come back up to these consolidation areas here. So anyway, that's the euro. Let's have a quick look at the pound dollar. Again, very, very nice sweep. We're looking for the sweep under these lows here for a very long time. Some nice rejection here on the day so far. This is a weekly chart, but we came down and we swept these lows so far by just under 100 pips here. So nice move to the downside. Nice move under liquidity here, grabbing up that liquidity. However, this hasn't been the greatest trading pattern. They really aren't in a big hurry to get this thing down. They had about 2 weeks here of consolidation, and then, you know, they finally dropped out of the bit and then returned back into it, and then it failed, and then you know, a down day, up day, down day, you know, do nothing day, down day, up day. So it definitely hasn't been trending as nicely as the euro has been. The trade has definitely been here. This has just been a nice steady downtrend, whereas the pound has just kind of lethargically been sort of falling off in unison with what the euro's been doing. So anyway, same type of idea, and I called out this low here getting swept on Tuesday. That came down nicely and took that low in there. So we'll now move this guy down to here, and I'll just, whoops, I'll just change this again to that blue, just so you can kind of tell the difference. That is the low in there. And going forward, if again we do see some continuation on the downside, if price rejects in here, and it came in, I just want to have a look at the highs in here. Get rid of some of the levels on this chart here. Okay. Basically all we've done is come back down and basically traded to the close of this candle right in here. So right about there. The high came in today so far at 133.06, and the low, or sorry, the close I should say on this candle comes in at 133.06. So that's a perfect retrace back up to the close of that candle there. So again, I would expect that to probably be cap the high if the US dollar is that is the low for the day, I would assume that this is probably going to be the high for the day on the pound dollar as well. So we can watch for that. And that is just... oh, here we go. Sorry, I was on a 4-hour chart. I was looking at... yeah, so you can see price retraded right back down to the close of... like right to the pip. That's very, very nice. So we'll see if this is the high here, if they fail to get back in. And very, very logical area up here as well, too, for rejection. So that's like a perfect trade back up into that area there. So I'd like to see this candle close and then potentially another maybe push higher and a failure, and then look for getting into a short on there. And see if we can capture a range today and maybe even into tomorrow and sweep these lows down here. And then that's it for me on the week. I wouldn't be trading any more than that. If we can pick up a trade today on a short, get some nice movement, hopefully close it before the end of trading today, getting low down here, and then you know, seeing what happens on Thursday and Friday and studying price action from there. So that's what I'd be looking at. So some great levels so far that the euro and both the euro and the cable have hit. Very, very technical levels. Again, same with the US dollar. No willingness so far to continue to the downside. So we'll watch that. That candle's going to close here in about 8 minutes. And then we'll see what they want to do on the next candle here. So I'll be with you guys here for another few minutes yet. I'm not going to close things down. I got a few other pairs to look at. While I'm checking out some pairs, if you guys have any comments or questions about some levels that I'm looking at, or other pairs that you'd like me to throw up on the charts here, then just put it up in the chat. I've got it to my left here. I can, on another screen, I can have an eye on that, and I'll do my best to go through that for you. Euro GBP, nice rejection off of these lows in here. I don't trade the Euro GBP. I use this more of a guide for the Euro USD and the pound dollar. So I don't trade this, but again, you know, we see that rejection on both the euro and the pound. You can see this big push back up in here as well, and price came right back into this consolidation area in here. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they want to reject back down. If there is one more push down on the euro and the pound, we could see a push lower here as well too on the euro GBP, and maybe a sweep down here, and even a return back into these levels, back down here, the highs of this consolidation area. I'd be looking for them to come back down and retag into, and then who knows where they want to take it from there. This is one messy, ugly pair. I would never, just so you guys know, if something like this was happening on like the euro, like I trade the majors, the euro, the pound, you know, the US CAD, things like that. If I saw this price action happening on any time frame, really, in any one of the majors, I wouldn't be trading that. I'd stay away from that, because this is ugly trading in here. And all they've been doing with this has just been consolidating this sideways while they've been manipulating these two pairs here. So once this gets out of this trading range here and starts to do something like this, you know, even you could even trade this. Like, this is a nice consolidation area to trade. You can easily trade that, but this is just very tight, sloppy, you know, price action in here, and I'd have no interest. This doesn't suit my trading style. You know, some people may be able to come in here and do some scalps in there, and you know, some intraday trading. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some nice ranges in here. You know, they're 200 pip ranges, but just very ugly in my opinion. You know, I like price to trend and to trade in you know, in unison with other pairs, and this is just been ugly. So I just kind of use this as a gauge as to what the euro and the pound do. So, and not too much to discuss about that. US dollar though, like I say, there's some big news coming out for the US dollar here in about an hour. I'd like to see that happen here today. I don't know that I'll sit on here for another hour with you guys. If you want me to, I could certainly do that. But I'd like to kind of wrap things up here in about half an hour or so, so not to keep this live trading session too long for you guys. But you can see, look at this, like, you know, again, the U.S. dollar. So here, this is again why I'm kind of thinking this is a suspect rally lower. So look at the U.S. dollar. This is the daily. Look at the big rejection. Sorry, the big push up in here, in unison with what the U.S. dollar was doing. And look at the rejection candle on here so far. Very, very different from the rejection candle here. This was a huge down day on the U.S. dollar. The U.S. CAD, that wasn't a massive down day. I mean, yeah. I mean, it took out the body of yesterday's trading range. But so far, and then just swept down below the low of Monday. But so far, you know, it's not. I'm not too convinced that this is going to be a big reversal right up here. You know, it was an 80 pip. It was an 80 pip retrace, and so far it stalled. Now I'd want to see what they want to do. These wicks in here, I believe, would offer some level of support if they want to push price further down into these levels, and then we'll see where it wants to go from there. But I think this high is going to get taken out, and again, that would coincide beautifully with that run on the U.S. dollar. It's about 150 pips away from now, and I'd be looking for a run up to, actually, there's a level I'd earmarked up here at 13200, and I think it came from the weekly. It's just a return to the bodies of these this small consolidation in here. Not a consolidation. It's more of a price ran back down, retested the old lows in here, confirmed that it was bearish, and then continued down. It's really just a retest of that area there. I think they could run price up into that level, and that's so the high of this guy here comes in at 131.25. It'd basically just be a push up to 132, about 75 pips, and then we'll see what they want to do from there. Again, U.S. CAD's been showing some strength, very, very nice bullish uptrend you can see here, and you know, you don't want to pick the highs of the markets. I think they will trade to this level here. Price will probably see a reaction. It'll probably retrace. Don't know if that's the high, though. Again, you know, and I don't know if that this is going to be the high, the end-all be-all high on the U.S. dollar either. They could very well continue to push this thing and just, you know, not reject at all. They could just keep pushing this thing all the way up. I mean, look at this bull move here. Okay, this is case in point. So we've got an area in here. And let's say, you know, I'll take it to this green level here, because that's where we're at from, you know, the lows down in here. I mean, that's just one run on this move here, one little small run. Very actually interesting that they would use something of that symmetrical. You know what I'm saying? Like, look how it's lining up in here with these symmetrical price swings. Very similar in their size and magnitude with these. It's kind of interesting. But that's what I'm saying, right? I mean, how do we know we might not get, right? So price did exactly this, right? Came up in here. How do we know it's not going to come up to this 95.05 level, do a small rejection like this, and you know, puts in something like that up to here, comes back, retraces slightly, and then doesn't just come in and you know, put another leg higher and get us back up into here, right? I mean, the U.S. has a lot of sorry, my throat was going dry there. The U.S. has a lot of motivation behind this price swing here, obviously. You know, trade wars with China and trying to strengthen the dollar and the petrodollar, et cetera, and trying to get people to buy the U.S. greenback again because there's been a lot of flight from it. And so obviously they have a lot of reasons to push their the price of their dollar back up. So there's absolutely no reason why the Fed wouldn't just continue this buy program and smash this higher. Now there are a few other technical levels or areas that I'm not going to get into that could equate to price rolling over, but just keep that in mind. Like, you look at this at that symmetrical swing here. Coincides with the symmetrical swing here and here. So I wouldn't be surprised if they don't. I definitely think, look, for the record, I think it's going to come up here. I'm on record saying this. I think they're going to reject here and they're going to come lower. How low they go, I don't know. But they could, like I say, just do a very small retrace and then power this thing up another leg higher. So just keep that in mind. But I don't forget where I was going with this. Talking with the U.S. CAD, selling into and picking the tops of bull moves. It's not a habit you want to try and get into. You need a crystal ball or have some kind of clairvoyance, and I don't think there's too many people out there that trade the markets that have that. So all you can do is select specific levels on the chart and understand that price will trade to those specific levels, and you may get a reaction at those levels, but if that's the high or not, that's nothing I'd be in the business of picking out. So anyway, that's where I think we're going to see price go this week. So not too far away, about 150 pips is sort of what I had called, and to this level here, it's about about 200 pips. So great range here for the rest of the week. I'm not going to hold price and wait for FOMC to do that. I'm not crazy. I'm not interested in sitting through plus price fluctuations. If you've got a demo account and you want to trade that, by all means do that. But I'm looking for this to be the low here and then a push higher. And we are now just closed that hourly candle so far, and nice rejection in there. Beautiful. And I'm kind of looking to see here them push this back up. Price is going to be, like I say, that news comes out in about an hour and a half. Is it an hour and a half? Sorry. What time is that news coming out? Bank of Canada rate. Yeah, in an hour here, just under an hour. Comes out here at 10 a.m. New York time. So I'm not gonna put a trade on the CAD yet. Well, you know what, guys? I mean, if you've got a demo, let me just go down to a 15 minute here. See what we're looking at. I'm just gonna drop down. There's that drop on the Euro USD that I was looking for right there. As I was saying, like this as kind of a topping pattern here. Price came up, rejected, and now it's going to fall over. And I bet you this is doing this. Yeah, this is doing the same thing. Right in here, it hasn't quite seen the magnitude and the push back down as the Euro USD has. But I would expect this to continue. I'm not going to trade the pound. I don't think there's anything in here that really excites me too much. I think more so would be the euro. So I'm just going to... Now, price could come back down to this. See these levels in here, this small consolidation area right in here. Price could come back down to this level and reject as well too. So you got to keep that in mind. I'm not going to put a sell order in here. I'd like to see price return back up here one more time and test these lows. It may not do that as well. It could just keep pushing down, but I'd be looking for that for a trade setup. And more so for the CAD, though, I'm thinking same type of idea. I'd like to see them come and bounce down here one more time. So if I'm going to watch price here for about the next 15 minutes on the US CAD and see if it wants to do that. And then we could potentially look at getting a setup maybe somewhere down in this level down here. So we'll see how that pans out and see if we can't shoot for these highs in here for the end of the day. UJ, don't trade this pair. Haven't actually even looked at this pair for a while. Some nice rejection off of that, though. So we'll see how much they want to come down here. I would suggest that this is probably... let's do a flip on this guy. 50% retrace level, comes back down to these old highs in here, we could see some kind of a rejection there. But we'll see what happens. I don't trade this pair, to be honest with you. So if you're a UJ trader, I'm sorry, guys, I can't give you much of an analysis on this. I don't follow this pair. I don't really like it that much. I'll trade it every now and then when you get moves like this. It does trend very nicely. Almost like a bit of a head and shoulders pattern setting up. And it actually just kind of broke through that last shoulder right there. So you can see here, head up here, shoulder, potential other, shoulder here. So we'll see what happens there. But, again, these aren't patterns that I trade or anything like that. I don't put a lot of faith in them, but just kind of, on the retail mindset, that's kind of something that could be setting up. Could see prices push lower. But with the strength of the US dollar, I wouldn't bank on it. This thing could do one more push higher here if the US dollar does get that run up into the 95 level. And then, who knows, maybe it'll see some kind of rollover from there, but we'll see. Crude oil, so far, has bounced. I don't want to, I want to hesitate taking, I was talking about this on Tuesday, I want to hesitate getting on any position right now in crude oil. There's some numbers coming out in about the next 10 days or so. I'd have to double check the date. I haven't done that yet. You know what? Here. Let me just... okay, let me just look at this here. Pull up the OPEC meeting schedule here. There's a big meeting in, I think it's Vienna. Yeah, it's Vienna, Austria. And, oh, you know what? It's not happening until June 22nd. That's a little ways away from now. But they're talking about starting to open up the taps on crude oil again, saying that they've cleared the surplus from the past few years. The glut has been... minimized, and price obviously ran up in correspondence with that, and now you've got a lot of big member nations, like Russia and Saudi Arabia and things like that, sitting there looking at, well, let's turn the taps back on and start to flood the market again, and price will probably run lower if that does happen. I don't necessarily think Putin got on and he was squawking about seeing price come in at maybe, if it was sitting around the $60 mark, that'd be fine for them. So we're about halfway there, about $7 away from there. So we could see price on crude oil start to roll over a little bit further from here. So I'm going to hesitate on getting in any positions, and we could actually see price just consolidate. I mean, literally just chop sideways from here for the next 20 days, and just kind of sitting there. And then once that Vienna conference has wrapped up, they'll start making a direction on price, whether it be lower or higher again. So, but so far, I mean, this bullish trend line has not been broken. I'm not going to put any faith in that's going to hold up or anything like that. I think 63.70. If they were going to go higher on price, so let's say the 22nd of June comes in. And they consolidate this thing, what I would be looking for is them to come in, and let's say prices over here, I'd be looking for them to come down and drop into the 63.70 level, and if their ultimate goal is to run it higher, I'd be looking for a rejection at that level. But just keep in mind, just watch, if you're a crude oil trader, I would get to familiarize yourself with the news that's coming out on that meeting. Very, very well, and learn what the numbers mean on there and interpret them, because if they say they're going to start turning the taps on, you're going to see crude oil roll over. So keep that in mind. Australian dollar. Nice rejection on Australian dollar here today. Price came, swept down, swept under these lows here. Yeah, those lows come in at 74.87. Price came down. Beautiful 10-pip sweep and rejected, and very, very nice move higher. So we're going to see what they want to do. Now, there is definitely some bullishness to the Australian dollar, and we're going to see what's going to happen here going forward with this. I don't think that this is the low. Or sorry, I don't think that they're going to just continue to drive it higher from here. This may be the low. I'll be honest with you. This could be the low. However, there's a couple of wicks down here that are kind of nice. So I want to see what they want to do with those. And again, I'm not going to get set up myself personally into any major positions until after FOMC. So just keep that in mind. You know, going to look for a little bit of a scalp trade today on US CAD. Speaking of that, how's that doing? It's just powering up higher here. So I want to get in. I don't want to buy here. I'd like to get in on a retrace back down and then a failure and a run higher. Oh, here we go. Euro's doing it right here, right now. So let's just see how high they want to bring this. I'm going to go down to a 5 minute. Let's see what they want to do here. I've got a demo account here as well that I'm looking at as well. So I would not be looking for them to come any higher than... Oh, that's weird. One second, guys. I wouldn't be looking for them to come any higher than right in here. Maybe just a quick wick up here and a rejection, because there are some relatively equal highs right there, those two equal highs. So we could see them wanting to return back to that. But I'm not really going to bank on anything there for them to do that. I think if they're going to do this, they're going to just push, and they could reject right in here. So let me just look at this here for a second. And I'm also going to reduce this, because I typically trade with a half a lot on my demo. And I would suggest, if you went short in here, I would suggest that you use this as a stop loss. I don't want to see price go higher than up here. So we're 16.27 right now. I mean, you could make it an even 16.50, I guess, just for argument's sake. I don't think you'd have to go that high, and then I'd be picking a target back down. I don't know that we're going to get all the way back down here, but I don't know. Let's say the old highs in here, maybe. That would be potentially a good target. We could hit, maybe see if price wants to tag off those old highs there. And again, this is a demo, guys. There's no live funds here. We're just practicing. We're just seeing what price is going to do. I think we're going to see a rejection. Don't know if it's going to be an 80 pip rejection or not. We could just see price just sort of kind of slowly move down. And in terms of going through the Asian range on this one, I'd like to see them, again, there's 3 hours left of trading in the day. So I'd like to see some magnitude of them come down here and push lower. And this is just kind of just a nice scalp. I mean, hell, 80 pips, that'd be a nice scalp. I wouldn't even suggest you hold out for that. I would actually probably be taking some profits after they come down and sweep some of the lows in here. 30 pips to 40 pips, that'd be a great range. And that's kind of right in about this area here. 40 pips comes down to about here. I'd even suggest you take some partial profits down here. Move your stop to break even if price gets back down under this area in here. Somewhere in here, and then I would again take some off, move stop to break even, and you can sit there and hold out, and if you want to look at see if price wants to return back down here, you certainly can. I think that's what we could see, but we'll see. I mean, this could just be a failure, and then they want to push higher, and in which case we've got about a 25 pip stop, I believe. I'll be honest with you, if price wants to start coming back up and re-challenging these highs in here, I'm not going to be very interested in this trade. And I was just more so looking at the US. Here, let me get out of this here 1 second and get back to this one. Mainly just looking to see, you see these two wicks down here, seeing if that's going to be the low that they're going to put in, and then they're going to just run price higher. So really don't want to see price go much lower than these lows. So pretty much right around here. I'd permit price to come back down and retrade to it, but I'd like to see a rejection and then a push higher from there. So that's what I'm looking at. But the main thing today, though, that I'm looking at here is the US dollar, or US CAD, and we're starting to get a nice push lower here on it. So let's see if they have any willingness to come down to here on this level, and then I'd be looking for a push higher. And the only reason is because that news is coming out again in about 45 minutes. So so far we've seen a nice rejection off of those lows. What else? Guys, if there's anything else you want me to have a look at, let me know. Like I say, I got the chat up here, so we can have a look at that together. Aussie. Yeah, I was looking at the Aussie. We'll see what happens here with this. Price came down, actually really broke that trend line there. Again, I'm not looking to trade off of that or anything like that, but just thought it was kind of interesting. A little bit sloppy in here. Price is definitely showing a willingness to run higher, that's for sure, and that's this pair should be trading down as the U.S. dollar is trading higher. Obviously, you can see here, nice push higher in the U.S. dollar. The Aussie has been doing the opposite, and so that, the Aussie has been pushing in unison with the U.S. dollar, and it should be doing the opposite. So as this is pushing higher, the U.S. dollar has been pushing higher. These two are inversely related, so as the U.S. dollar pushes higher, the Aussie should be pushing lower. You can see here that's what they've been doing, and that's kind of why I've been looking at this pair. Actually, there's been several people in our group that have been looking at this Aussie pair here. It was brought to my attention because I don't follow the the Australian dollar that closely. I mainly focus on Euro USD, Pound Dollar, oil, and a couple other commodities. And Aussie, if there's a good setup, I'll trade it because it's a nice pair that can get in a nice range when it starts to trend. You can also see here, this is a very strong trend as well too. And this could just be a fake breakout and then a retrade higher. And these two highs right here would definitely be the target down here that I think they could be reaching for. 81.35. Yeah, 81.35. And a push probably above this high here and maybe into this range here. So that's kind of what I'd be looking at for the Aussie dollar. So that could be a very nice swing trade setup possibility. But again, I'm not taking any positions on this until after the non-farm event happens on Friday. So we look where the dust settles on Friday, at the close of Friday, and then do your analysis on the weekend. And if the U.S. dollar has done some rejection and we think it's going to go lower for the interim, and it's hit a target, it's swept that 95 level, then I'd be looking for longs on Aussie, and it'd be a great spot to get in on here. So again, you know, if the U.S. dollar does push higher, this could see one more push lower on this pair here, and but so far very nice bullish tendency here, and we'll see what it wants to do. Something I'm looking at. Oh, what else, guys? Anything else? I'm gonna stick around here for you know what, we're getting close to that U.S. Canadian dollar news release here, so I don't know. Let's see what maybe we'll see what it does. Maybe we'll stick with you and see what it does here. S&P, unfortunately, this is Dave's time slot here that I'm trading into, that I'm going through. Dave was tied up this week. He had some commitments that he needed to take care of, so he's going to be away from the charts today and on Friday as well. So I'll do a non-farm live trading set. It won't be trading, sorry, live study session with you guys on Friday. And so I'll be back on Friday for 8:30 New York time to basically the same time I was at today to look at the non-farm event with you guys. I won't be on for very long. There's some ISM manufacturing news numbers coming out at 10 a.m. New York time, an hour and a half later. I won't be sticking around that long, that's for sure. I'll probably be on for about a half an hour. Just kind of call out a couple of levels that I think I want to see if US dollar has a willingness to hit that 95 level. And that's pretty much what I'll be doing for Friday. Thursday's trading session, we'll see what happens here as today's going through. I don't think I'm going to do a live session on Thursday just because I typically don't trade or do anything the day before NFP numbers come out. So just so you know, I probably won't do a live session tomorrow, but Friday for sure. I'll watch the levels with you guys there, and we'll see what price does. So just to kind of give you an idea of the schedule of events to happen, and the reason I went down that path was because again S&P coming in here. Don't trade the S&P. I used to do a little bit of S&P trading. I haven't lately. This is kind of nothing. This was nice, easy to trade in. This so far, obviously, this has been a little bit more difficult. Price came down yesterday, put in a big rejection, big wick candle there, and so far has rejected, and potentially could see a move higher. I'd only be interested, though, personally, to see a move maybe up to maybe even the level where it's at now, and then maybe see a price roll over. This is a bit of a topping pattern here. I think they'll run these highs eventually, but they may run it back down lower here for the interim and maybe potentially grab some of these lows under here. These two wicks under here, these two equal lows, very, very suspect. Two pin bars basically is what they are. I don't necessarily think that they're going to leave those. I think they'll probably come down and jam under those one more time. So we'll see what happens. What else? Nothing on copper. Ugly trading on copper. At one point in time, that was a great market to trade. Cocoa. We were looking for a move run higher on cocoa for a while. It did that, came back down, pushed one more time higher, and now is since trading softer. So nothing on cocoa that I'm looking at. Coffee. I called an area down here in coffee, and unfortunately I just wasn't in front of my charts that week to get in on this low here. Very, very nice move higher that had ensued from there. So I'm expecting prices to run much higher on coffee as well too, which doesn't bode very well because I drink a lot of coffee and I hate paying more for stuff. So I don't know why these two levels are in here for whatever reason, but I think if we see a nice bullish move on coffee, we could potentially, maybe not this high in here right away, but certain, whoops, that's the wrong one, but certainly these highs in here I think could get ran to. So I'd be looking for that move on coffee to happen. Cotton, great move here. As you can see here, nice bullish move higher. Wasn't really looking at this market. There wasn't really anything that had caught my eye, so to speak, so I didn't elect to do anything with that one. Orange juice, I called this run here. Again, same idea. Price had come in and bottomed in early to mid-March once, twice, and rejected, and I called this high up here, and look what price did. Just beautiful, beautiful bullish price action up there. That is right there one hell of a trade, and you know, you can see the power of this market when it does start to trend like that. You just get these nice big bull moves, and they never look back. They just run. And speaking of those types of trades, I think we're in one on here on sugar as well. Price has came down once, created a low, back down, failure swing, and I was looking for price. See the this consolidation here. I was looking to see if price was going to come back down into here one more time. Unfortunately, it didn't. It just got away and got away and got away. And I hate buying in these areas up here. I really hate it. So I'm going to wait and see what NFP does. If we see a run lower in the US dollar, if the US dollar runs lower, then it tends to push commodities higher. So I'm looking for this high of 15, 15.11 to get run, and I mean, and higher, honestly. 15, that's just kind of an interim target, but I think that's where they're going to want to run this thing, and but I don't want to buy it right here. I want to see what happens on NFP, and then if they do see any rejection on this, I'd be looking to buy the rejection, and then get in on it and see what they do with price going longer. But I think that's where it's going to go. So that's sugar, and I've been talking about this for a very, very long time, and you can see this nice bull move here. I called this move. I called a low on this. Now, admittedly, they actually came down a little bit lower than what I had thought they were going to do. I was kind of looking at around, I think it was 1180. 1180 to 1120 basically was kind of the low that I was looking at, and they actually came down and jammed down a little bit lower than that. No big deal. I was still right that they were going to roll it and push higher. There were a lot of signals and a lot of technicals that were leading to bullish price action in sugar here, and that's, you can see that's exactly what it did. So great move so far. Bitcoin, if you are a cryptocurrency trader, what did I say when price was running up in here? That they were going to fail and roll over. It's exactly what they did. Big time. To use a phrase from Trump. They ran price up and failed in here and slammed it back down. Now, I don't think this is the low. I think what they're going to do is probably trade price back up just slightly. I'd be looking, see sort of the confluence in here between these, this level consolidation here and this tiny sort of down candle consolidation here. I'd expect them to run price up to that level and then go lower. These are my targets on the interim, short term here. Sorry, I should say, not interim, the short term. These lows here, and then ultimately longer term, I'm looking for them to smash down this low here. There's another level up here that they clearly had no interest in getting up to, which I said 100 times. And but you know, they're in a range. They're in a consolidation range here. So, you know, don't be surprised, though, if they do want to stay in this range for a little bit longer. I'm not saying that they're going to come down and jam through these lows here anytime soon. They may just sit here and just run it sideways, so just keep that in mind. But this is the target here and here that I'm looking at. And ultimately, I would imagine they're probably going to end up running this low down here as well, too. And who knows how low they want to take it after that. So if you're long on crypto, especially on Bitcoin, just, you know, be cautious with it. Nat Gas, looking for a bull move on Nat Gas. I like this. I like how it price traded in this consolidation range, pushed up out of it, and now we're trading back into it again, retesting these old highs. I'm not looking for price to go any lower. I mean, I'd permit it to go a little bit lower, but I don't want to see it go any lower than these lows in here. You see these levels that I have right here. I want to see if they. I don't want to see them go lower. So basically, if price breaks through these highs here, which they could, then I'd like to see the next level, and I don't want to see price go any lower. This is the line in the sand right here for natural gas, right there. No lower than that. If price goes lower, I'm not interested. But I think we're going to see a bounce, and we're coming up into summer. Everybody uses cooling for their air conditioner. The world's been getting hotter lately, and I think that's going to continue into this summer, and I think we're going to see a nice bullish move on natural gas for the next couple of months. Seasonally speaking as well, too. It's a little bit early. Natural gas typically doesn't pop until, I think it was the end of June. I ran a seasonality comparison on it here. Oh, give me 1 second. Let me just look at this, guys, and I'll tell you with 100% assurity. Natural gas. You know what? I'm wrong, guys. Sorry. I am wrong. Nat gas actually tends to create a peak sort of mid June. Let me just hang on. Let me just turn something on here. We're in a bull trend on it right now. So May and into June and even into sort of mid. Oh, that's why I'm looking at the contract month. Sorry, I'm. So price has been consolidating since February, and seasonally speaking, it should be pushing much, much higher into May and then into mid-June. So we could still see a bull move up until about the next couple of weeks on natural gas. But I'm looking for a failure here and a push higher. And again, I mean, this range here, this wouldn't take very long to get through. I think that could easily get ran out in a couple of weeks. So that's what I'm looking on natural gas. The seasonality is starting to run short here. So again, we're going to be ramping up into that summer season. So I think we could be seeing this. If it's going to go, it's going to go any day now. So I'd be looking for, again, not trading anything, even commodities through non-farm. I want to see what that does, and then the direction of the dollar, and then we should get some kind of a bullish move on this. So we'll wait and see there. Anyway, that's kind of the analysis that I was looking at for the day. Don't see any questions up on the chat, so I'll assume you guys are fine with everything. Let's go back to that euro trade here. So far, price is trading under. We're in profit, but not convincingly trading under yet, so we'll keep an eye on that. That Canadian dollar trade, where are we with that? Oh, that was a nice push lower there. Unfortunately, I got distracted. I do that sometimes, and I ran into another chart, and I missed that. But not to worry. News is coming out in about 25 minutes here. So I can stick with you guys here for about 25 minutes if you want to stay with me on that, and we can look at something on the Canadian dollar. If you would like, but and that's the only reason why I was kind of going into a little more depth on some of these commodities and things like that. Litecoin, seen a bit of a bounce so far. This isn't the low on Litecoin, guys. Don't, if you're a Litecoin trader, and just so you know, Litecoin's going lower. It's going to take out these equal lows here, and then from there, I don't know where it's going to go. Yeah, it might reject. It could just come down, sweep that low there, put a rejection candle in, and then basically, which is just a wick, close higher, and then start screaming higher. Certainly do that. Same thing with Ripple. I'm calling this here about 2-3 weeks ago, looking for price to trade down and a bounce higher. So that's the same thing I'm looking for on Bitcoin, but I think Bitcoin is going to sweep these lows first. So that's pretty much it for crypto. I don't trade a lot of crypto personally, to be honest with you, and I'd like to do that. I'd like to start getting into it a little bit more, but I'm not going to be trading it at these levels. I'm going to wait for them to reject and come back down and sweep the lows. So this is not support, guys. If you guys are supporting resistance traders out there, this is not support. I mean, it is right now. It's acting as support, but they will smash price. Where's all the liquidity right now? Just ask yourself that. Where's all the stops? Where's everybody got their stops right now? All the big funds, all the money managers, everybody. Where they got their stops? Right there. That's where the markets are going to push down to grab that liquidity. Now, whether they push down and keep pushing down under here and under here, that's another matter that you'd have to look at. But when it price comes down to it. But keep in mind, that's where they're going. So what are we doing on the US dollar here? Price so far has bounced nicely. I want to see that continue. I don't want to see price go any lower than here. Basically 94, 94.20, 94.20, yeah, 94.20. I don't want to see price go any lower than that, and that's just to round the number off, basically. That's why I'm picking that. To be honest with you, I don't want to see it go any, this big green up candle here, I don't want to see them come back down and go lower than than the open of that. I'd like to see them just to start to reject and to run it back higher. Now, keep in mind, I mean, it is Wednesday. They had a nice move here, a nice down move on the day so far. You can see price opened up into London and then has retreated. So if this is the low of the day, they may just kind of lethargically start to slowly move price, in here kind of like this, and just sort of, back and forth, and kind of keep price in a tight range going into Thursday, and then they could run it up, starting to run it up in Thursday into Friday there. So just keep that in mind. Which would mean that this euro trade pretty much wouldn't do anything. We might, get a few pips, 10, 20 pips here or there if they do start to slowly roll price over. Don't expect a whole bunch, is basically what I'm saying. I'm more so looking at the Canadian dollar just because of all that news. I'm hesitant to put out a trade on the Canadian dollar. It's a pretty big news event on the Canadian dollar here. Bank of Canada rate statement and overnight rate, very, very big news drivers. I don't want to, the reason why I didn't, so this candle pushing down here and this rejection in here, I got on about an hour ago on trading, and so that was this candle right here. So we are 9:30, 15:09. So price was right here when I started this live session. Certainly could have got in on a trade on that candle. Didn't know if that was going to be the low, if they want to come back and retest it. They since ran it back up. Now what I'm looking to see happen, it's a big economic news driver on the Bank of Canada rate statement. So I'm looking for some price fluctuation to happen. Let's say I got in on a long, let's say I even got a long in on this candle right here. And the only reason, again, I'm thinking a long is because I think they're going to take out these highs here. If you're just joining us, welcome. I'm calling higher on the US CAD. I'm saying that this is going to be a rejection. But with that Bank of Canada rate statement, they could want to fluctuate price quite a bit. There's an area, these highs in here, they did not get hit. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they come in and I mean, that would be a deep retracement, 70 pip retracement. But with a rate statement, interest rate statement coming out for a country, that could fluctuate price down. And I don't want to be getting caught in a move. So I was, like I say, I was right in here looking at price. And when I opened up the session, let's say you got a long in here, well, you would have to endure a stop of over 50 pips, and I'm not interested in trading like that. Maybe unless if I had like a very tiny portion on, I certainly wouldn't be interested in doing that, though. I'd want to wait and see what price wants to do. That's interesting. Look at that gap on. Oh, there we go. price didn't refresh. Yeah, I'd be looking for that little area in here. They did come down and they swept these lows nicely by about 6 pips, 5 pips or so. So that's kind of the only reason why I think this is the low. But price could fluctuate on that news release, and I don't want to be a part of that. I just want to wait until they pick a direction and then potentially get in on it. If I do a position at all. I mean, I may not do anything. I mean, just sit on my hands and just watch price, and all of this, talking today has been for naught because I didn't do anything. And which, non-farm weeks, I don't do a whole lot. Just for the record, I Monday and Tuesday, like I said, I trade the, euro and cable quite a bit. I'll go down to an hourly. Monday, Tuesday, some nice ranges in there, right? Especially on Tuesday. I didn't trade this. I didn't trade any of this. I watched price do what it was doing, and I didn't take part in any of this. And I just don't typically trade weeks for non-farm. There's lots of time to trade price throughout the month, and I just don't really like the price action in the weeks that NFP numbers come out personally. So I just elect to sit on the sidelines, study price, watch where it's going, and then get back into the market the following Monday once NFP has come out. Me personally, I know a lot of guys that they trade you know, they trade non-farm numbers, and they trade right up until the Friday, or you know, if they don't trade the Friday, you know, they'll trade right up to the Thursday. And so I'm just not one of those guys. I don't like it. In my past, in my younger days, when I was an experienced trader, I did, and I've got rewarded quite handsomely on being right, and I got punished quite badly for being wrong. And the bad did not outweigh the good, and I wasn't really interested in trading NFP because of that. So, because you can get whipsawed pretty good, you can see price fluctuating 100 pips in either direction. Sometimes they'll do it 100 pips in one direction and 100 pips down in the other direction, just depending on how wild they want to take the markets. So, yeah, I don't typically trade NFP for that reason. NFP, FOMC, you know, events, interest rate decisions, things like that. You know, you definitely don't want to be trading those types of events. Not conducive to high probability setups, basically, is at the end of the day. So, anyways, we got about just a little over 15 minutes before that Canadian dollar news release. So, I will see where it's headed here in a few minutes. US dollar so far is holding those lows intact. We'll see if that's going to continue or not. And that Euro USD trade is really doing nothing. It's chopping sideways. We got a short position off here on the Euro, and so far not doing a whole bunch, just sitting there. So, nice tight stop though. I'm not going to permit price to do anything. To be honest with you, if price starts running on Euro, if price starts running higher than, price starts running higher than this level in here, not really too interested in it. Basically, if it comes back up and starts, if it closes any higher than here, not interested. So I think we got a short off at 116.25-ish. That level there is 116.35. So if I see price close above 116.35, not interested, closing, shutting her down. So just keep that in mind on your own end if you did end up taking a trade there. I want to see price roll over, obviously. Pound dollar, yeah, same type of thing, not really doing a whole bunch, just sort of consolidating. And US CAD pushing up nicely. So we'll see if they want to come back down to this area down here. Somewhere in that neck of the woods. I'd be looking for something like this to happen. Once those Bank of Canada rate numbers come in. Something like this. They could want to come down and drive lower and take out this low, or they could just be smashing it higher right now you know, just to take it, you know, up to here, fail, and then roll over. I mean, that's certainly a possibility as well, too. I would put that past them today. So we'll see how that goes. But that'll be coming out here in 15 minutes. So running out of things to talk about here, guys, while I'm waiting for this news. So if there's something else that you want to chat about, something in the news, something that caught your eye on a chart, if you want me to analyze a particular pair for you, you know, by all means, please chime in. I've got the chat window open here. Let me know what your thoughts are. How many of you guys trade non-farm week? Just give me a yes or a no in the chat. How about that? Let's start there. Any of you guys trade non-farm? And I'm talking the whole week, like Monday to not necessarily trading Friday, but you know, if you trade Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of non-farm, let me know. If you're curious, take a little poll out there. See what you guys do. We're getting a big push up on the Euro USD so far. Don't like that. So that trade that we took could be null and void here. See what happens at 116.35. If the price gets up there. Don't want to see it go any higher than that, though. Like I was saying to you. Price did come down on this candle here, tag into these areas here, and so far has rejected. So we'll see if they have any willingness to get up higher. Well, like I say, that's sort of the line in the sand there. I'd permit them to trade up to it, but I'd want to see them reject at that level. Yeah, like I say, now I don't necessarily think, like I say, the bank statement, I think they could come down and tag off of these levels in here. That's kind of what would be more likely to happen. So even something like this, come down and then potentially trade higher. But I like Canadian dollar higher towards the end of the week. Again, as I say, those NFP numbers I think could sort of push it up into here. But we'll see what this bank rate wants to do and see if they want to have any willingness to come higher into here. I don't necessarily think they're going to scream this thing lower and come down and start sweeping these lows here. I think they had the opportunity to come lower in this area here, and they elected to push it higher. So I think going lower off of this level here is off the table for now, personally. And again, nice uptrend trend. Prices come in, created a low, created a higher low, created another higher low, and another higher low. So that's conducive to a nice bullish uptrend. And until they start coming in and sweeping out this low, and this low, I'm going to be bullish on the US CAD until price comes up to this level in here. So we'll see what they want to do. There's also some levels in the US CAD, and this is out on the weekly, so this is very, very long term. But there's some levels in here that are very interesting to me as well, for them to come up and potentially run into. So this may not be the high. They could just keep pushing this thing, especially if like I was saying to you earlier about the US dollar, if the US dollar wants to push higher and create another symmetrical run up into here, then the US CAD is going to have a very, very difficult time. Where is that? US CAD is going to have a very, very difficult time rolling over and coming back down. If US dollar sees that strength, then this is going to push much, much higher as well too. So just keep that in mind if you are a US CAD trader, that we could still see higher prices on this yet. So it'll depend on what the US dollar does, though, and what crude oil wants to do. Canadian dollar's tied in with crude oil, and right now Canada cannot get its crude oil to market. It's pretty much landlocked. Interesting fact, if you're not Canadian and you want to know, Canadians, the Canadian economy relies very heavily on its non-renewable resources exportation. So basically, oil and gas. It's a very, very heavily relied upon natural resource that Canada exports, and a huge chunk of our Canadian national GDP is based off of it. And so, interesting fact, the Western Canadian provinces are the producers of the oil and gas, and the eastern provinces are actually a net importer of oil and gas, mainly oil. They buy crude oil from Venezuela and ship it to the eastern Canadian provinces. I know that sounds crazy, and that's kind of how messed up the Canadian political landscape is, that someone thought that that was a good idea years ago, that Canada is a net exporter of crude oil, and yet they import it from another country to feed the need of the eastern provinces. So very, very interesting, very, very ridiculous. But Canada's having some issues trying to offload its natural resource. And Canada is the third largest supplier of oil and gas in the world. It is absolutely massive in the reserves. And so right now, the reason I bring this up, because we're talking about the Canadian dollar here, this is all tied in. But basically, the Canadian dollar exports their crude oil to the U.S. and the U.S. is Canada's major purchaser of oil, and they refine it and then send it out to market from there. But Canada has been having a problem getting its natural resource crude oil and gas to Asian markets, which the demand is huge, 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 huge. And so it's been trading at a discount. So the Canadian crude oil actually gets traded on something called Canadian West Select, and it's a big, big discount to West Texas Intermediate prices. So with that being said, what I'm driving at here is until those pipelines get built, the Canadian dollar is probably going to see some weakness, not strength, and because Canadian dollar is heavily tied into the production and export of oil, crude oil, right? So if Canada can't get its crude oil to markets other than the U.S. Because we're landlocked, because we can't get pipelines built, then the price of the Canadian dollar is going to suffer, which means it's going to go lower. So on this chart that you're looking at here, US CAD, the US dollar is the front pair in the currency. So you can see here the currency basket, US dollar is the front currency. That means that if the US dollar is going up, this is going to take it, which means the Canadian dollar is actually getting weaker compared to the US dollar. So this chart would go higher. If the Canadian dollar is going to see strength, you'll see this price going lower. So that's sort of how that works. So if the crude oil prices start to go weaker, which I was talking about earlier, all the OPEC news and everything coming out here on the 22nd of June, they make their decision on if they're going to increase the world supply or continue on their production cuts. If this happens, if that happens and price starts to trade softer into the 60s, the low 60s, then you're probably going to see the price of the US CAD go higher, because that will in turn create an even larger discount that the Canadian oil is going to be sold at, an even larger discount, and which means that the Canadian dollar it's not going to get strengthened because of that. We're not going to have a strength. We're not going to have the strength of the crude oil to sell into, and basically it's going to weaken the Canadian dollar, which means we will see price trade higher. So long story short, after that giant rant, if all of those scenarios pan out and Canada still cannot remains landlocked in getting their oil to market, to Asian markets, we're probably going to see this push higher, especially if the US dollar continues to push higher. So just keep that in mind, okay? If you are a US Canadian dollar trader and you're banking for lower prices on this, I don't start putting shorts in yet until you see that US dollar roll over, because it's obviously A, tied very heavily to that, but B, tied very heavily to crude oil, and crude oil again could see a further decline in price. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, with that being said, let's get back to the charts. The Bank of Canada rate comes out here in 5 minutes, so we'll probably see price start to ramp up here any time here in anticipation. So if the Canadian dollar forecast, let me just look at this here. So I'm just looking at Forex Factor here. They're forecasting a 1.25% change in, oh, sorry, that's the overnight rate. Bank of Canada rate statement, we don't have numbers on that yet. Sorry, and I'm kind of talking about something that you guys can't see. I'll just bring this in so you can see right here. These are the anticipated forecast numbers, so we'll just wait out to see what the actual numbers are that come in here. To be honest with you, I haven't been following the Bank of Canada central bank, so I don't know what the musings are of if they're going to keep our interest rates, the Canadian interest rates, the same, or if they are going to raise them. So we'll have to wait and see. More than likely, if they keep them the same, that would be great. We'll probably, I don't know, probably may see a bit of a decline in this, in the price of US CAD. But if they raise them, then we'll definitely see price start to run higher. The Canadian economy is seeing a little bit of growth as of late. We've pretty much had record low. It's pretty much had record low interest rates for the past few years, obviously, as everyone has. Zero interest rates and the whole bit, and so I would expect they may have a rate hike here or there throughout the year, but I would expect that they'll probably keep it the same. I would imagine. We'll wait and see here. Price numbers are coming out here in 2 minutes, so let's see what they want to do. Just bringing up some seasonal tendencies as well too for Canadian dollar while we're sitting here waiting. And you can see in here from April till about May, bit of a decline going into the end of May, and then another rise higher up into July. But you can see nice bullish movement on the Canadian dollar. Let's go into the 5-year. 5-year, not as much. It's been a little bit more muted from the 40 and 15-year averages, but you can see that it definitely hits its peaks up in these levels up in here. So could be hitting a peak up into July. We could see price starting to retrace a little bit. So just keep that in mind. Again, if you are a U.S. Canadian dollar position trader, not so much for intraday trading, obviously that's not going to affect you too much, but just kind of gives you some background as to what their tendency, bullish or bearish bias is. So just keep that in mind. Okay, we should be getting these numbers out here any second. And there they go. Look at that. That's why you don't take those positions. Look where it hit so far. Oh, and keep going apparently. That's why you don't take long positions on interest rate statements. Price is trading back down to these levels in here though, which I had kind of wanted to see. So we'll see where they want to hold up so far. And this is on the daily, obviously, so so you can kind of zoom out on price here and see a little bit more where they came into. This old candle open right there. That's kind of interesting. Back down to a 15-minute. You can see push price up, rejected it. Let's see what they want to do. If they want to keep pushing lower from here, or if that was the low and then they're going to start pushing this thing higher. Side note, our Euro USD trade is finally starting to look a little bit nicer. Price is falling off as anticipated. And I'm just going to do a refresh on the old Forex Factory. And yeah, shocking. They don't have the rate statements out. The overnight rate was 1.25%, and yeah, they're increasing the rates though. You can see from for about the past 2 years. 2017, they had the overnight rate statement at so the interest rate statement basically at 0.5, and since then it's risen to 1.25. But they had not made a change on the rate statement on the interest rates so far, and they haven't made one yet. Sorry, they made one in January of 2018 of this year, and then since then they've elected to keep the rate the exact same. So with that being said, we should see that be the low, I would imagine, and they're probably going to push this thing higher. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes here, but I'm going to go down to a 5-minute chart. Wait for this candle to close, and then once the candle closes, then that's when you start looking at entering into position. So we'll just see what happens here for another minute or two. But like I say, and again, if you're just joining us, I saw a couple new people jump on. I am looking for higher prices on US CAD, and that just basically coincides with this higher move on the US dollar that I think we're going to see coming in here. You can see so far, very nice rejection. I like to see the wick on this candle. I want to see price push and close higher than this previous candle here. So that's what I'd like to see run through here. Price just continuing to push higher. Look at that. So 1 minute candle. So price was up here. Price fluctuated. $111 pips. How'd you like to have been in a long position up here and got stopped out like that? That's why you don't trade those numbers. That's why you wait. You wait, you wait, you wait. And waiting, yes, on positions to get in. Yeah, sometimes you miss moves, but it sure is hell better than getting taken out on moves like that. So that's exactly why you do that, guys. And I'm sure you all knew that already. I'm just reiterating what you already know, of course, but you know, just got to state the obvious. Side note, that euro trade that we're in, it's a nice sell-off so far at those levels. So I'm going to look for that to continue here. US CAD. So I'm just on a 1 minute chart here. I'm just kind of looking at the levels. I don't ever, just so you know, I do not ever trade on a 1 minute chart. This is not anything that I would ever base a theory of an entry on. But I'm just kind of looking at how low they want to go, if they want to start coming back down and going lower than the bodies in here and potentially pushing down here. Just kind of gives you a bit of a different perspective from here, because you can get, you know, gaps and things like that from happening. So it's kind of nice to know exactly where they're taking price, the exact levels that they're taking it. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. So if they get back down to here, I'd be looking at potentially them just running the low, rejecting, and then continuing higher. But we'll see. On the hourly, actually it was on the 4 hour, I think. Price hit a very, very logical level on the 4 hour that I've got marked in here. And that comes in, I'll just put a price tag on this. That comes in at 128. It's basically 129. That's not what I wanted to do. 129 big figure is basically where I was looking for price to come down to. Came down, hit it beautifully, and so far, I haven't seen any continuation lower. But that's why you just kind of got to wait and see for a minute here. $116.25. Current price 20. About 20 pips in the profit so far on that Euro USD trade. So in about 10 more pips, I'll be recommending again peel some of the position off and bring your stop down to break even. Yeah, break even. You know, maybe even plus 1 or 2 pips, and then just you can ride the rest of the trade out to the target if that's what you want to do. But I wouldn't be doing a whole lot after that. If it takes if a price doesn't get down to our target on that Euro USD trade, then I would highly recommend you close it before the end of the day today. Okay, where are we here? So they're pushing price back down. And if they want to keep going lower, I'm just sort of looking on here. If they want to keep going lower, a logical area that they could want to come back down into would be somewhere in this area here. Basically a sweep of these lows right here. That could be where they want to come back down to. I don't know that we'll get all the way down to there. We've seen such bullish activity on the US CAD that I don't know that they'd want to get all the way down here. But it certainly could be a possibility. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, it looks like they're going to run that old low right here. Now, I want to see if they run it. I want to see if they just kind of push down, you know, 5 or 6 pips and reject and then go higher, or if they just smash it down again. You know, again, there's some level. This is a 5-minute chart here again, so there's a low rate in here that they could run, and a couple lows down here. They did come down, so they ran price up here, and anybody getting into a long position in here, they did come back down and go and grab those stops down here once and twice, and then push price higher. But there's certainly a small little area in here, and maybe even the low here, where they could want to come down and run through as well. So just keep that in mind. Hopefully nobody went and jumped on a long position on US CAD yet, because as you can see, that's you got to wait for them to finish moving price down. It's about 10 pips so far, just a little under 10 pips so far that they've come down under that low. Yeah, 125 pip run so far off of that rejection. So let's see where they want to take this thing. Again, those are those lows that I was talking about here. They could want to come down to here, and then this line at 128.20. If they really want to push this thing down and tag off back down into this consolidation area here, that's pretty much about the middle of that consolidation area. Let me just, yeah, I kind of like that one better. So they ran price basically from the low to the high here, where they were keeping price in check. That's right about that 50% level, that 128.20 level. So if they do want to continue to jam prices down, they could be running for that level as well too on the downside. But that would be a good opportunity, I think, in there. We'll see. So far, the US dollar has been rejecting that 94.20 level. I don't know that I want to sit here on this this live feed for another 20 minutes or anything, watching them see what they do on this price. But very, very interesting. They really smashed price. They wanted to get down and pick up that liquidity in a big, big hurry. So that should kind of tell you something.
Potential false move.
In my opinion, anyway. Swap the lows in here. So let's see if this is the next low right here. Let's see if they have any willingness to continue down here. That's kind of the next level that I'll be looking at. So, anyway, it's kind of like watching paint dry sometimes. Did see a nice move here, but so far, not a whole lot. I don't know that that's the low yet. It wouldn't be. So what I'd look for this to be the low is price to kind of do this. Let's just say, for instance, that this 128.70 level is the low, just for argument's sake. So they come down here, they push down one more time, stop there, and then they run price higher. And then they come back down, or they come back off of this high here, run it back down, and fail to go lower here. That's typically when you would see the move happen, and it'd be that failure swing that you'd be looking to get in. You wouldn't be looking to get in here, you'd be looking to get in on this failure swing right here. So basically just price showing an unwillingness to go lower, and that's kind of what I was looking at on the 1 minute to see. You see this right here, if price pushes up here and then comes back down, if that is going to be, you know, this sort of thing here, right? Same type of idea here. That's what I was looking at on a 1 minute though, to see if that's what they were starting to build up into. Price rejecting, come back down, creating a failure swing, and then pushing higher from there. Didn't do it, as you can see, and that's why you wait, right? You don't jump into trades. And it pushed through one more low here, swept that low again by about 10, 17 pips so far, and so far it's just been sitting sideways. Looking to see if they want to push it down one more time though. So that's my thoughts on it anyway. That would be the trade setup that I'd be looking at. That low to come in, and then a failure swing, a trade higher, and then a failure swing back down, and then price to retrade back up into these levels. So that's what I'm looking for. But you guys will have to watch this on your own, because I am going to call it a session. I've been on here for 1 hour and 50 minutes, and my voice is starting to go, so it's starting to get a little bit sore. I find if I talk for a couple hours straight that my voice starts to kind of get a little bit raspy and dry, and my throat gets dry, and then I have a hard time. I have a hard time talking. No amount of water can quench it, so I find that's kind of the time to start to cue off. But one last time here, guys, just sort of recap the this demo trade that we took on Euro USD up here. So far, prices pushed down. I want to see a continuation down. I don't really want to see this trade much higher than here. Again, 116.35. Don't want to see price go any higher than that. So I'm actually going to move my stop down to about that level here. Before I do that, let me just get rid of that. Oops. 116.35. Don't want to see price go any higher than that, and I want to see a continuation lower. take profit in this area here. So if you did get in at 126.25, make sure you're taking some profits in this area here at 115.90. I'd say even 115.95. That's 30 pips. Take some profits off the table. Once that happens, move your stop to break even, and you know, if you want to hold out for this target down here, by all means, or collapse the trade at 30 pips. Call it a day. I'm not looking, and I mentioned this earlier in the week, I'm not looking for big ranges on the week. If you can get in and get out on, you know, like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with 30 pips, 20 to 30 pips each day, that's a good weekly range. Be happy with that on NFP. Again, I don't trade NFPs personally. I'll do demos, of course, which you see here. But NFP is too unpredictable. I don't like the price action, so I like to sit on the sidelines. So if you did get in on this Euro trade, please make sure that you follow those guidelines. I would recommend them. You can do what you want to do, obviously, but I would highly recommend you do that and take some profit in this level here, maybe even close the trade completely. Or you can leave a very small, take 90% of it off and leave a small portion down to see if these levels down here get traded to again. I actually like, I'll be honest with you, I like this here. I like these levels down here to potentially get traded back down to. See those relatively equal lows down there? I'd like to see if they want to come back down and trade back down into there. So, anyway, that's the Euro. We saw the US CAD doing its thing, still kind of sitting there. They could sit here sideways for the next little while and do this. So I showed you what I was looking for in terms of a push down and then a retrade higher and then a push back down and a failure swing. I'd be looking at getting along there, so you can watch for that on your own accord. I'll leave that up to you, and keep in mind going forward, I think we're going to hit these levels up here on the US CAD. So if you are shorting this pair and you did get a short on here, A, you're crazy. I would not be doing that. And B, I would definitely, if I were you, take some profits in here if that's what you did do. Because I think they're going to start running things higher. I want to see, though, if they have any willingness to get under this low here, which is 128.70 basically. See if they have any willingness to come down lower than there, and then from there I'd be maybe looking at a sweep, but we'll see how it goes. So with that, it's been 1 hour and 53 minutes. I am done talking. I appreciate your time, everybody. I'll be back Friday morning. There will be no live session tomorrow. It's the day before NFP. There's no point in going on. There's really going to be nothing to talk about. Nothing that I'm interested in looking at anyway. If I see a trade pop up, maybe I'll jump on for 10 minutes quick just to say, hey, how's it going? But I think for the most part, I'll just leave it for Friday. We'll do the NFP study on Friday live as it happens, see where the levels are at, and I'll sit with you guys for about half an hour and watch price with you for Friday at 8:30 a.m. New York time. We'll see you there. Thanks for joining, guys. Hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. Make sure you get in there, crush your week, get it all done, and take it easy on Friday because, again, NFPs are out. Don't trade. Don't be stupid. Don't do NFP. We'll see you then. Take care.